Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Why Kentucky Legislative Redistricting Matters to You. I am Beth Salamon, State Policy Advocate for National Council of Jewish Women, Louisville Section, and Chair of the Louisville Jewish Community Relations Council.
And I'm Matt Goldberg, Director of Community Relations for the Jewish Federation of Louisville. It's an honor to be hosting an event on such an important topic, as commitment to democracy is a very Jewish value. Every 10 years, the U.S. Constitution mandates a federal census be taken. Then each state redraws district boundaries for their congressional, state, and local legislative districts. Results from the 2020 census will be released sometime this year, and it's expected that the Kentucky General Assembly will redraw boundaries in early 2022.
The League of Women Voters of Kentucky has designed proposed maps for Kentucky districts aiming to meet the legal rules and avoid gerrymandered and confusing district lines.
This event is being recorded and it will be uploaded to NCJW's website. If you want to ask a question or have any comments, please feel free to do so in the Q&A tab. We will respond to as many questions as time allows. If you have any technical difficulties, please text Honey Goldman at 502-419-0426. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce Dee Pregliasco, Vice President, Redistricting Chair for the League of Women Voters of Kentucky. Dee?
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I want to talk to you some about redistricting. And as you can see, our push is called People-Powered Fair Maps because we want a fair process and we want an open process. So keep that in mind. Not only fair maps, no gerrymandering, but a fair process. All right, let's start talking about it. What's next? All right, these are the basics. And some of you, I'm sure, probably know this. And Matt's already mentioned this federal census, which happens every 10 years. Some of the data has come out at the end of last month, but the rest of it is not going to come out until September. So it's going to help us draw districts for our Congress, 6 seats, 38 Kentucky Senate seats, 100 Kentucky seats. And then here in Jefferson County, what's critical, of course, is our Metro Council seats. And then there are judicial districts, city, county, and school board seats. So we have to pay attention. All right, what's next? All right, the timing, I've already mentioned the census. Keep this in mind. Last year, the League, with the help of others, put forth a bill to have an advisory commission. It didn't go anywhere. We did it again this legislative session and even had a joint resolution to try to make the process open and available to anybody to look at the maps and to have public input. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Now, what's the timing? We're not sure, but we do know the legislature is going to have some hearings this fall. We hope to be there at those hearings, and we're going to ask you all to come to these hearings too, because we want public input. We don't want this done in the basement of a dark room. All right, next. All right, now, why is it important? It can make it easier if we don't gerrymander, or harder, depending on how they do it. We want you all as citizens who are voters to be able to learn about your candidates, communicate with them. We want parties to compete against each other. Regardless of what's been going on in the elections in Kentucky, there really ought to be competition. Also, members of racial minorities should get to elect their candidates, and communities of interest, and also regions. Western Kentucky is different than Eastern Kentucky. Northern Kentucky is different from Jefferson County. Jefferson County is different from South Central Kentucky. All right, next. All right, why should we care? We've mentioned this a little bit, but we want you, the voters, to be able to choose your representative, not that they choose us. And we do know that in the past, they literally, with precision, almost like a scalpel, gone in and said, oh, you can have this street, you can have that street. How did they vote? Do you want this street? So what happens too, when there are these safe districts, we know, and you all know this from looking at just our country, we have polarization, we have gridlock, they can't get anything done. And when they have these safe districts, they don't feel like they have to do anything. And then we know that there can be lawsuits, and there was the last time around. Both the Republicans and the Democrats sued over the way the lines were drawn, because the Democrats had drawn the ones for the House and the Republicans had drawn the one for the Senate. That was costly, and nobody knew until 2012 what district was going to be where. Next. All right, what's the best approach? We would love to have an independent commission in Kentucky, as some states do, about 17 of them, but that would require a constitutional amendment. So we've gone with the next best, which is an advisory commission, have bipartisan members that advise the legislature. And that's what our bills called for last year and then again this year. The legislature in Kentucky, under the Kentucky Constitution, has the final say. We understand that, but we know that things would be better if the process is out in the open, transparent, and there's public input. So that's what our commitment is. Now, why did we develop possible maps? We bought the same computer program, Maptitude, that the General Assembly has, and using the 2010 census data, we have actually drawn maps all over the state, every county. We have done that. And we've done that to try to help inform our fellow Kentuckians, inform you as citizens and voters, so you can have, that you can have a comment about it. You can say, hey, this doesn't look right. And we've also done this to try to get legislators to have discussions with the public, have simpler and better maps. Let me give you one quick example. One of the things we found out is Hopkinsville, which is a town in Western Kentucky. It's a very compact town. It has 3 representatives. So what they've discovered is, oh my goodness, my business is in one representative district, my house is in another one, my children go to school in another one. That's not the way it should be. So they are really all up in arms and have been calling their legislators. They've had programs, they've written letters to the editor, and that's what we need everyone to be able to do in Kentucky, to have a say in how these lines are drawn. Next. All right, we have to follow legal rules to draw maps. We do if we draw our maps. And keep this in mind, once all of the 2020 data comes out, we're going to do good new maps. But we have to have one person, one vote. That goes way back to the 60s. There has to be this opportunity for these districts of opportunity, minority voters. And then county lines are critical. What's supposed to happen is that no county would be divided, but unfortunately, once it has to be divided to make equal districts, and these equal districts are based upon population, then what happens is a district or a county can be divided up as many times as it wants. So we have some counties that are really, really divided up. In Louisville and Jefferson County, what has happened, because our population is what it is, that some of our districts are attached to surrounding counties. That may work, but maybe it shouldn't be that way. We want input. Next. All right, other goals are compact districts. Again, Hopkinsville, they want to be compact. In Louisville, think about this. What about communities in Louisville? Should Middletown be all one? Should Fairdale be all one? How should that work? Simple lines. When we drew our maps, we've used highways, well-known dividing points. It's a little more difficult in Jefferson County because we have large swatches of, places like we have UPS and the airport, we have GE, we have Ford. They kind of, take up a lot of land right in the middle. And so there have to be sometimes some lines drawn that we'd rather not, but nobody lives in this particular area, so we can't attach it. And then what we really want to do, and I think this is going to be the hardest part for the legislature, we drew our maps, we didn't pay attention to who the incumbents were. Because what we know is in the past, parties all over the country in Kentucky, they have protected each other. They protected themselves and protected their friends. And when we drew our maps and when we draw them again, we're not going to do that. All right, next. All right. This is a map, and I hope you all will take time later and replay this program and look at this. This tells you the population issues that are happening This is based on numbers that we have through 2018. You can go on our website and look at the numbers for every county in Kentucky as far as projection. But the I-65 and the I-75 corridor are the ones that, of course, are the most important as far as the growth. And you can tell that when you look at this map. Jefferson County, we have a gain of probably going to be about 4%. But you can look at those other two corridors and see where the growth is. Eastern Kentucky is losing a lot. Western Kentucky is losing some, except for Owensboro and Callaway County, Callaway, where Murray State is. Kentucky is going to keep all 6 of its congressional seats, but we have lost some population. Next. All right, here's the current congressional districts, and this will tell you why maps are not simple and how they were protecting each other. Look at this. Look at District 1. Why should it go all the way from the Mississippi River on the west all the way over to Eastern Kentucky? Why should it almost be like a dragon? Look at 2. It goes all the way over by the river, all the way over into Eastern Kentucky. Look at 4, which includes part of Jefferson County. It goes all the way to Ashland on the Ohio River, far east. Okay, we're going to show you what we have done in redrawing this map. All right, look at this. Is this simpler? It's much simpler. And actually, if you looked at all the counties, it makes much, much more sense, much more sense. And we think this is really, really important. Next. All right, this gives you some of the statistics and shows you as far as the various congressional districts. You can see we have to keep them, as far as the population, they have to be as equal as possible. And you can see in looking at this, how close they are in almost in equal size. Our maps did a good job of that. Next. All right, this is the state Senate districts. These are harder to deal with in that you need to look at it carefully, but look at the ribbons over in Eastern Kentucky, all of those counties ribboned together. What you may find it not as easy to tell, but Jefferson County, we have a Senate District 14. It goes from southeastern Jefferson County and it goes all the way down to Casey County in the middle of the state. We don't like that at all, and we shouldn't like that. That should not be there. So again, you can take time later to really study these and see what happened. And again, the Republicans drew the Senate maps and the Democrats drew the House maps. Next. All right, we redrew these. These are a little hard for you all to look at in that you really need to sit down and look at them, but we think these are much, much, much simpler. But again, we want the public, these counties all over the state, to have some say. They might say, we like this, but we don't like that. We like all of that, but not this. That's what's important. Next. This is Jefferson County, and this will give you an idea. I mentioned the District 14, the Senate. You can see it hits Spencer and then goes all the way down to Casey County. So look at 19, look at 37. And then of course, 26 is connected to Oldham, 20 is connected to Shelby, 14 is connected to Spencer, 38 to Bullitt. These are all shared. Can we do a better job of this? 10 is with Hardin. We think so. Next. All right. You might have trouble following this, but the yellow lines are the interstate highways. And so when we drew these lines, we did that to sort of help people understand and try to keep groups together. We think these are much better maps. Based upon the population numbers, we will still, as you can see, NA up at the top is still going to have to be shared with Oldham, and the SE one down in the south west end is going to have to be shared with Hardin County, and that's just because of the population issues. Next. Again, here are the House districts and the statistics, and you can see, excuse me, not the House, the Senate, you can see how close these are in population. So we were very careful that we kept them close in population, distance, and of course we're considering the Black non-Hispanic population and the Hispanic population, because we have to do with communities of color. These are the current state house districts. And I will tell you, all of these maps you can find on our website and look at them more closely. Look at LWVKY.org and you can find all of these. These are pretty chopped up, a lot of them. And again, it's hard to, you'd have to go zero in to look at them. We've redrawn these maps. Let's go to the next one. And you can see, and again, you would have to study these. And why we've done this is literally so the public can sit down and look and say, okay, could it be this or what can it be? We don't really care who can draw these maps. People in the universities can. You can go online yourself and find free programs and draw them yourself. Next. Again, here are the current Jefferson County. These are the representative, the House districts, and look at them. Do they need to be that way? Can they be better? Okay. 15 of our current ones are all in Jefferson County, but then you can see there are ones that go outside Jefferson County. Next. We've redrawn these. We think they're better because we put 16 of them in. And so we only have a little bit of sharing, again, based on population. Next. Okay, this is sort of gives you a little closer look. And the idea is, you know, should we do something between the Watterson and the Ohio as opposed to having it go all the way from the Ohio outside the Watterson? And that's why we've tried to do these kinds of things. And again, we're not looking at incumbents. Next. Here again are the statistics for Jefferson County. Again, trying to keep these districts population equal because that's critical. We especially can't go over 5% according to the Kentucky Constitution as far as, you know, being the difference. Next. All right, what can we do to move forward? And I know that there's going to be some information in the chat for you all to do some specifics, and we'll talk about this, but this is what's critical. We want citizens' opinions, and we want you all to be at any hearings that are had. We want you to comment, write letters to the editor, email your legislators. If you know people who live out in the state, have them email their legislators, call your legislators. It's really, really easy. We want transparency. We want all the maps to be publicized before our legislators vote on them. What's happened in the past, they literally bring them up and say, here they are, we did them, you all vote. And what we feel like if there's enough input, then we can build a plan that can pass with bipartisan support, okay, and more than just a simple majority vote. And we think that's really, really important. Now, we're really concerned that some legislators are out for revenge. Hey, this party did this for 40 years, so now it's our turn. We're just pushing and pushing, and we hope that doesn't happen. All right, again, this is what you can do, and I know that this is going to be put in the chat. Call your leaders that you know specifically that are your legislators. You can also leave a message for all of them. That's what you want to ask for, open and transparent process and opportunities for public input. That is critical. And remember, Matt mentioned this, we're talking about 10 years. Whatever happens, it lasts for 10 years. So it's not like next year we can go, hey, we don't like this, we need to change it. It's 10 years. And let me say one last thing about that. I think we all need to pay more attention to Frankfurt and what goes on in Frankfurt with our state legislators. And I think with what you've seen happening all over the country, that's what's important. We need to pay attention with what happens in Frankfurt because it affects all of our lives in every area of our lives, and it affects us every day. Obviously, you can contact us, you can contact me, and I know we're going to have some questions. Again, our complete possible maps are on our website. Please check them out. Call with any questions, and we'll give these kind of presentations to any groups that you belong to. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Beth.
Thank you so much. That was really informative. Looking at those maps is eye-opening when you see it, you know, right in front of you like that. So really appreciate all that information. And I would love, people to put some questions in the chat. We'll get to your questions. I have a quick question. So you mentioned calling our legislators as something that we can do. First of all, that's a great advice. Do you have any other action items for the viewers and what we could do to help make this happen?
Well, certainly you can contact your individual legislator, contact all of them. You can do that. You can write letters to the editor, get your friends, any groups that you belong to. We'll give these presentations, and people need to know about it. And then you can go online. We have a petition. It's not the official kind of petition that's provided by statute, where you have to make sure you clarify everything and is everybody a voter, that kind of thing, but just a petition to say, hey, open the process. So we'd love for people to do that. You can print it off, get people to sign it, get it to us. We just want to try to inform as many people as possible. And so we can say to the legislators, look, we have these people are paying attention. One of the things that the League's been doing, we have given these presentations to about 65 different groups all over the state. So if you belong to a group, ever how small, it doesn't matter. I've spoken to 65 people. I've spoken to 10 people. We'll put on the same presentation. We'll answer questions. And I will tell you this, there's a wealth of information online about redistricting and gerrymandering. And we actually had a town hall last week, and you can get the link to that and watch that. It had 2 national experts on gerrymandering and on all of these election issues. And you can watch that. It was recorded. So that's another way to get the word out again and listen to what they said.
Dee, we have a question about the timelines. Can you go over the timelines again, and are hearings occurring now? When do they start if they're not?
Sure. Well, in between when the legislature meets, they always they're called interim hearings. And our most recent information is these are going to start in June. And that's why we've been in touch with the various legislators that are sort of in charge of those hearings. So Kevin Bretcher and Jerry Miller, local legislators from Jefferson County, are in charge of the election committee and then the state government committee. So again, we want people to show up for those hearings. And now that we can kind of get out, that's going to be better, because that's what happened last year. We really, we couldn't go anywhere. And so that's starting. They're going to hold those from now through the end of the year. If you contact us, we can get you that timeline. As I said, we've met with Representative Nemes from Jefferson County. We're meeting with Representative Jerry Miller on Thursday. We've talked with Bratcher before. We're going to talk to him again. Our league in Northern Kentucky is working with Joe Fisher up there, who's very active in this whole area. So we just need to keep the pressure on. So as I said, the big data, the state data, came out in April, the end of April. The specific down to the counties, those numbers in the city of Bowling Green and the city of Louisville, Metro Louisville, that's not going to, those details, including Hispanic numbers, people of color numbers, African-American numbers, those are not going to come out until September. So again, we're just sort of moving slowly forward. The idea would be that probably when they meet starting in January, that's when they would do the final process of drawing maps. That's again why we're pushing now, pushing. We've been doing this for 2 years, open, transparent, have our input.
That's great.
We think they'll vote on it in January. So I hope that helps.
Great. Dee,
Another question. Go ahead.
I have another just very quick question. Compared to the rest of the country, how did Kentucky do as far as participating in the census? I know that was an issue that we pushed out, that we emphasized last year, trying to get people to fill out their census forms, to go online, to do it in the mail, that kind of thing.
Right.
How did we do? How was Kentucky compared to the rest of the country?
Well, we did okay because we didn't lose enough population to lose, a congressional seat. You know what's going on in New York, supposedly by 89 people they've lost. California's lost. Oregon and Montana and Texas and Florida have gained. Illinois lost. Ohio's lost. So we kept enough population for purposes of keeping our 6 congressional seats. So that's good news. The bad news is it's believed in Kentucky and a lot of states that there's always an undercount. And the estimate for Kentucky the last time, as far as I know, we don't have the estimate yet for this time, but the estimate last time was that it was probably children, as many as several hundred thousands of children did not get counted, as well as whatever other people didn't get counted. And that affects the amount of money that Kentucky gets. And we know Kentucky needs money because we are a poor state. So that's always an issue. And I'm glad you all pushed the census. We did too. It was all over. But, you know, with what happened the last 4 years, I'm afraid there are people who just didn't step up. And I think, unfortunately, we understand why.
So we have another question that just came in that asks if there's a specific legislative committee that's responsible for drawing the maps.
Yes, I mentioned the State Government Committee and the Elections Committee, and that's Bratcher, who's from Jefferson County, Representative Bratcher, and Jerry Miller, Representative Jerry Miller. So those are the 2 committees. Now, it doesn't mean that all the other people involved, leadership, you know, in other words, who's head of this and who's head of that, won't have their say. In fact, one of the things that we have realized is that even though the state legislature should draw the lines for Congress, what we found out is that those congressmen, they get involved and do this drawing. The thing to Google is look at the 3 of districts 1, 2, and 5, and look and see how close together they live in counties. One lives in Warren County, one lives in Monroe County, and one lives in Pulaski. Those, except for Warren, the other 2 are down. Monroe even touches the Tennessee border. Pulaski almost does. That's why that District 1 was drawn the way it was. So they stick their nose into it, even though it's supposed to be the state legislature.
When the league drew their maps, did a political party come into your calculations at all when you were trying to figure out how to make it fair?
Yeah, no, we did not pay any attention to incumbents. Literally, Susan Weston is our sort of maptitude guru and expert, and she paid no attention, none at all, to any incumbents, looked at population, looked at the counties, and tried to, for example, not divide them if at all possible. There's and she could speak to this more specifically. There are a couple of counties where it had to happen. And unfortunately, we lessened the numbers in Jefferson County to have, to go to other counties. But no, we paid no attention to any political party who was involved in nothing. And we didn't have any input from any of them. Literally, she did it following all those legal rules, as well as the compactness, trying to keep them, compact. And obviously when she redrew them, Hopkinsville, who's upset about having 3 districts within their compact city, she did away with that. So.
Just wanted to see if Matt, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question actually just came in. Wondering who you shared your maps with, any decision makers, and what their response has been.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting. Last December, we had a press release, December the 15th, and we sent all the new maps that we had drawn, possible maps, basically, based upon the 2010 information. We sent all those, both by email and by snail mail, to every legislator. Everyone. Well, I have to tell you, it's sort of disappointing because periodically when we talk to somebody, they'll say, oh, well, can you send us these maps? And of course you want to say, well, we've already sent them to you. So we have sent them. When we meet Thursday with Representative Miller, one of the things he wants to do is see our maps. that's fine. We'll get them out again and show them what we have done. We have also shared those maps. As I said, you can see them on our website. And we have shared them. We have a coalition of Fair Maps Coalition that involves groups, including NCJW, from all over the state, groups that support what we're doing. And we've shared it with them, those maps with them. We've shared the maps with all the people that we have spoken to. I've spoken to chambers of commerce, Kiwanis, church groups, just civic groups, state retirees, you name it. As I said, chambers. And so we've shared all these maps with them.
Yeah, I've got another question. I know there's some legislation sort of making the rounds on a federal level that speaks to voting rights. And I know it talks about nonpartisan redistricting.
Right.
Is that something that the league is supporting? Is that something that you're actively urging people to contact their federal representatives on?
Yes, that bill, as well as the John Lewis bill, which would put back into the voting rights what the Supreme Court took out. Yeah, let me give you a little background about that. The Supreme Court, in its decision in 2019 involving North Carolina, which was a very outrageous gerrymandering effort, the Supreme Court basically, I think they just, I don't know why they did this, but they said, well, we just don't have to be involved in this. It's just up to the states. Okay. So, for example, in Pennsylvania, where they have gotten some reforms, they did it and they had to go to their state Supreme Court based upon their constitution. So if something happens in Kentucky, we're not going to be able to go to the federal courts, but if we have to do what was done the last time after the 2010 census, then we would go to the courts here in Kentucky. So yes, we're supporting all of those moves. To me, gerrymandering in of itself, that's a pretty broad term in some ways, but how can we outlaw it? Can we keep it from happening? And part of that is because we've got to pay attention. I will tell you, legislators have said to us as league members, well, where were you the last time? Where were you, 30 years ago? And what I've just said is honest. I've said, we should have been paying attention and we weren't. And that's why I've said tonight, we have to pay attention to Frankfurt. We have to pay attention to who we elect that goes to Frankfurt because it affects us. And then again, 10 years, we're going to have to wait 10 years. You might have seen some of the editorials that were in the paper, on the editorial page. Our president wrote an editorial, and then former Representative Bob Hellringer, who used to be a representative, he wrote back and very much like, again, it was, so awful what was done to them. It was he was feeling bad. It was done to him personally. And we wrote back again. And then former Representative Jim Wayne wrote and said, and basically if it's done poorly this time, it will be done out of revenge. And so one of the things I say to these legislators is be the good guys, do it right. Be good government people and do it right. And again, that's the message we've got to get to them. Open up the process, have it be transparent, let us have a say.
Well, if there aren't any further questions, we'll say thank you to Dee. Dee, this was wonderful. It was filled with information. You gave us wonderful quote unquote marching orders as to what we have to do.
Thank you. And
contact your state senator and your House representative and express your desire to have fair and accurate legislative districts. Dee, I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say one more thing. I want your audience to understand that we are not, that the league is nonpartisan. We don't support parties and we don't support candidates. So I think that's important for people to understand about our work. We don't support parties. We don't support candidates. We're nonpartisan. But thank you for having me. As you can see, I'm very passionate about this and can talk about it forever.
We should all be as passionate as you, Dee.
Thank you.
If anyone does not know who their representatives are, either in the state senate or the House, go to govoteky.com. That's govoteky.com, and you'll be able to find out who your state representatives are. Beth?
Thank you to everyone who has joined us tonight. If we could not get to any questions that you might have in your head that you didn't think of yet, or you want to talk to us offline after this is over, please contact the NCJW office or Dee. Their contact information, is in the chat box. And a follow-up email will be sent to you along with any updates. So please make sure that NCJW has your email address so we can do that. The event will be rebroadcast on our NCJW website. And I just lost my script, sorry. Other NCJW events like our 125th anniversary celebration on June 15th can be found on our website as well. And good night to everyone, and stay safe and be well.
And on behalf of the Jewish Community Relations Council and the Jewish Federation of Louisville, thank you for joining us. We hope this was as informative for you as it was for all of us. Thanks again, Dee.
Thank you.
Welcome.